A fire razed a wooden double-story house in Kuching. Sarawak government's effort praised for helping the people during the pandemic. And North Korea military mobilizes as COVID-19 outbreak looms. Those are the headlines for tonight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Muhammad Yusuf, and you're now watching TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. A fire consumed a double-story at Kampung Bandar Shah Jalan Haji Taha on Tuesday evening. According to Padungan Bomba Station Chief Tan Min Chai, the unoccupied house was said to be used as shelter by two homeless individuals.
A distress call was made at around 6:22 p.m. and a firefighting team from Padungan Fire Station rushed to the scene.
Okay, dipahamkan rumah yang terbakar ini rumah tidak berpenghuni, tapi apabila pihak bomba sampai ke sini kita dapati ada dua orang kita percayai golongan gelandangan yang tinggal di dalam rumah tersebut.
The fire was extinguished at around 6:41 p.m. No casualties were reported in the incident, and both the two homeless individuals were safe. The cause of the fire is still being investigated.
Police have arrested a 75-year-old senior citizen who drove against the traffic flow at Jalan Kuangli Bank in Kuching. The incident happened on Monday, May 13th, while the suspect was arrested 2 days after, said Kuching Deputy Police Chief Superintendent Merbin Lisa.
Suspek telah mendakwa pada masa kejadian beliau tergesa-gesa hendak menjual barangan terpakai. Maksud dia ke recycle item ke kilang berhampiran dan memandangkan kilang tersebut dijangka ditutup dalam tempoh masa yang singkat. Dengan kesesakan tersebut beliau telah mengambil keputusan yang tidak wajar lah. Pada sebelah petang daripada 15 tu kita telah recover kenderaan beliau di kawasan Pending. Dan pada sebelah malam beliau telah hadir sendiri ke IPD dan pihak kita telah membuat tangkapan di IPD lah.
Merbin said the senior citizen has been detained to assist with the investigation of the case under Section 42(1) of the Road Transport Act 1987 for reckless driving. The suspect was released on police bail and the case has been handed over to the Deputy Public Prosecutor for further action. Previously, the video of the incident of her reckless driving went viral on social media. North Korea has mobilized its military to distribute COVID-19 medications and deployed more than 10,000 health workers to help trace patients as it fights a sweeping COVID-19 wave. The isolated country is battling with its first acknowledged COVID-19 outbreak, which it only confirmed last week. Authorities reported over 269,000 people with fever symptoms, bringing the total to 1.48 million, while the death toll grew to 56 as of Monday. However, it did not indicate how many people have tested positive for COVID-19. The country has not started mass vaccinations and has limited testing capabilities, raising concerns that it may be difficult to assess how widely and rapidly the disease is spreading and verify the number of confirmed cases and deaths. Tracing efforts were also intensified with some 11,000 health officials, teachers and medical students joining an intensive medical examination across the country. Still, various sectors of the economy such as factories and supermarkets remained open and pharmacies are open 24/7. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had ordered that limited activity be allowed in each city. Now, the Sarawak government has shown great concern for its people's welfare, especially during the pandemic where many were greatly affected. The Bantuan Khas Sarawak KUCHING, or BKSS, has greatly helped the people, complementing efforts from the federal government through the Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia, or BKM, where both have also played important roles by providing assistance for educational purposes to eradicate poverty.
Pandemik COVID-19 telah menjejaskan ekonomi dan kesejahteraan rakyat kita. Bagi memenangi cabaran ini, Yang Amat Berhormat Premier telah meluluskan 8 pakej bantuan khas Sarawakku sayang berjumlah 5.7 bilion sejak bulan April tahun 2020 hingga Jun 2022.
At the same time, Taib stressed the importance of education as a way out of poverty, and as such, the government has enabled access to quality education for the younger generation.
Saya mengucapkan tahniah di atas penubuhan 5 sekolah antarabangsa untuk kanak-kanak cemerlang daripada keluarga B40, terutamanya dari luar bandar.
The State Legislative Assembly sitting will see the tabling of 3 bills, 2 of which are being introduced for the first time in the country. The bills are Land Code Amendment Bill 2022 and Forest Amendment Bill 2022, which will be tabled by the Assistant Minister in the Premier of Sarawak's Department for Law, MA63 and State Federal Relations, while the Supplementary Supply Bill 2022 will be tabled by Deputy Premier of Sarawak, Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Umbas.
The state government has to ensure the timely delivery of infrastructure and telecommunication on project in the state. Head of State, His Excellency Tun Pehin Sri Abdul Taib Mahmud told the August House today that the development of basic infrastructures such as road networks, water and electricity supply will improve the people's lives.
Sarawak hendaklah memberi penekanan segera untuk menangani projek infrastruktur dan telekomunikasi yang lewat bagi memastikan penyampaian tepat pada masanya. Saya gembira kerana agensi pelaksanaan dan pelaksanaan projek infrastruktur yang tertangguh akibat COVID-19 supaya rakyat dapat menikmati faedahnya.
Additionally, he welcomed the state government's efforts to implement an efficient transportation system to major economic centers in Sarawak, adding that seaports also played an important role in the movement of goods in and out of the state. Thus, he urged the Sarawak government to review and improve the management of the seaports with the use of innovation and the adoption of new technologies.
Coming up right after the break, new OPR rate will not be burdensome. MOTAC announces Tourism Recovery Plan 2022, and the first commercial flight in 6 years finally leaves Yemen. Right here on TVS Nightline. Stay tuned.
isteri adalah sesuatu yang tidak dapat dijelaskan maupun diungkai.
Welcome back. Now, Bank Negara Malaysia's decision to raise the overnight policy rate or OPR to 2% will not be burdensome to the borrower. In fact, it will be beneficial to the depositor through the raise in interest and profit. This is according to Finance Minister Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz, where the rate remains accommodative to the monetary policy to support the country's economic growth. Though the rate has been increased, Zafrul said the monthly installment payment for housing will not be at a burdensome rate. Instead, the OPR rate, raised from 1.75% to 2%, is lower than it was during the pandemic, which was 3%. During the 2022 first quarter Malaysian economic interview, Zafrul also disclosed the performance of the country's gross domestic product GDP for the first quarter of the year, which stands at 5%, indicating that Malaysia's economy is recovering. He also predicted the GDP to grow between 5.3% to 6.3% by the end of the year. The government will continue to monitor various elements that could pose a threat to the country's economy, especially from external sources. Tourism Malaysia today launched the Tourism Recovery Plan 2022 in an effort to boost the country's domestic tourism sector in line with the transition to endemic phase. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri said the plan was one of the initiatives under the Tourism Industry Recovery Plan involving the distribution of incentives to Malaysians in the form of discounts, vouchers and rebates. Nancy said the target was to increase the mobility of Malaysians to travel and spend through various discounts on land, air and accommodation. One of the initiatives offered to Malaysians through the plan was a discount of 100 ringgit for a travel package purchase transaction worth 200 ringgit and above from April 29th to October 31st, 2022 and is valid for travel until December 31st, 2022. Each user or MyCard holder is eligible to redeem this discount once, and the purchase must be made through Shopee Pay. The promotion beginning April 29th involved two clusters, namely Land Transport Cluster and Tourism Association Cluster. It will be expanded in stages involving three other clusters, namely the air travel, accommodation, and special interest tourism, which includes scuba diving segments, homestay, shopping, and theme parks. Nancy said this was to attract the public to continue booking transport tickets or tour packages at special discounted prices. Right, admission of the number of COVID-19 patients to public hospitals, which currently recorded an increase of up to 100%, will not affect the process of the country's transition to the endemic phase. National Recovery Council Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said this is because the number of patients recorded was in Category 1 and 2 with mild symptoms, which do not put pressure on the public health sector at present. Adding to that, Muhyiddin said, as compared to the situation at the beginning of the pandemic 2 years ago, the current situation is not critical and is under control.
Daripada laporan yang berhormat Menteri Khairi yang bentang tadi, dia kata keadaan tidak membimbangkan. Hospital awam kita tidak berhadapan dengan tekanan-tekanan yang agak serius, seperti normal saja. Jadi saya fikir ini masih dalam keadaan yang baik. Memang adalah petanda peningkatan daripada semasa ke semasa, tetapi kalau ikut laporan tadi hampir 99% pada kes itu ialah daripada kategori 1 dan 2.
He said so at a media conference after chairing the National Recovery Council meeting. Foreign buying of Malaysians' equities rebounded last week to 56.9 million ringgit from an outflow of 365.71 million ringgit the prior week.
In its weekly fund flow report on Tuesday, the Malaysian Industrial Development Finance MIDF research team said local retailers remain net buyers for the fifth consecutive week at 234.8 million ringgit, while local institutions turned net sellers after a week of net buying with a net selling position of 291.8 million ringgit last week. MIDF said local institutions were net sellers on all the trading days of the week except last Thursday, when they were net buyers to the tune of 41.38 million ringgit. Additionally, it said the highest net selling was recorded last Tuesday at 200.67 million ringgit and the smallest net selling last Wednesday at 40.44 million ringgit. Meanwhile, in terms of participation, foreign investors saw a decrease in the average daily trade value by 24.76%. Local retailers saw a decline of 6.9%, while local institutions saw an increase of 9.49%. Commenting on the international scene, MIDF said global markets closed lower last week and remained volatile as investors grew anxious about the possibility of an impending recession.
The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA hopes that cooperation with various enforcement agencies can be increased to strengthen the level of enforcement in national waters. MMEA Maritime Enforcement and Coordination Division Director Rear Admiral Hamid Muhammad Amin said the mutual understanding, agreement and collaboration between agencies involved in the enforcement and legal aspects of the maritime law will create uniformity of implementation to overcome the grey area which involves enforcement coordination and duplication of powers.
Adding further, such integration was practiced during Outbreak when the country was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, which serves as an example in terms of information sharing and technology improvement.
Kita akan terus bekerjasama lah untuk buat sharing information. In fact, dari segi teknologinya, semua agensi-agensi memang ada perancangan sendiri untuk mempertingkatkan keupayaan agensi masing-masing, yang mana akan diselaraskan oleh agensi yang utama lah, ya, yang akan diselaraskan oleh Majlis Keselamatan Negara. Saya rasa isu ni akan diadres by Majlis Keselamatan Negara bersama semua kementerian yang terlibat, yang melibatkan semua agensi lah. Ya, kita tengok ada banyak kementerian yang terlibat di sini. Jadi semua kolaborasi akan diselaraskan bersama oleh Majlis Keselamatan Negara lah.
He told this to reporters after launching the Maritime Enforcement Seminar. Through the organization of the seminar, it is expected to further strengthen the cooperation of the agencies involved, especially in eliminating criminal activities involving cases under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007. Meanwhile, from January to April this year, the MMEA has recorded a total of 340 cases involving maritime criminal activities. The maritime criminal activities recorded included the smuggling of drugs, ketum, subsidized controlled items, illegal immigrants, and the intrusion of foreign fishing boats into the country's waters. According to him, the illegal foreign fishermen who normally encroach on the waters of Kelantan and Terengganu are now brazen to enter through Pulau Tioman. As they are experts on the country's waterways, it is believed there are syndicates involving local ground coordinators. As such, cooperation of all agencies needs to be continued to eliminate maritime criminal activities in the national waters.
Beauty Tips membawakan kepada anda bukan sahaja kecantikan luaran dan dalaman, tapi kami akan kongsikan juga kepada anda petua kecantikan semula jadi. Jangan lupa saksikan saya Azwa Shah dan Siti Zawawi setiap hari Jumaat jam 10.15 pagi hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan My Preview.
Anda nak tahu apa yang terjadi dalam Sejahtera Asia musim yang terbaru?
Lebih rancak, lebih meriah,
lebih menarik, lebih informatif, lebih banyak program baharu dan menarik.
Nak belajar? Nak tahu tempat menarik? Nak apa lagi?
Saya di sini lagi rancak berjalan. Saksikan Sejahtera Asia musim yang baru bersiaran setiap hari jam 7.30 pagi.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, on to some global updates. Hundreds of Indonesian smallholder farmers on Tuesday, May 17th, staged a protest in Jakarta and in other parts of the country, demanding the government to end the palm oil export ban that has slashed their income.
Marching alongside a truck filled with palm oil fruit, farmers held a rally outside the offices of the coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs, which is leading the government policy.
Sepi Pak, dengan tidak ada harganya TVS ini, jadi masyarakat di Nagan Raya itu misalnya mau beli baju lebaran buat anak pun agak susah Pak. Karena kalau di Aceh itu apalagi kalau mau lebaran dia harus membeli daging, baju, masalah rumah tangga. Dengan tidak adanya harga sawit, jadi petani ini tidak mau memanen. Dan PKS pun tidak bisa menerima buah masyarakat kembali.
Jadi dulunya 3.800, saat ini banyak yang tidak laku. Kalau saya masih berkisar 1.800, padahal biaya produksi 1.800, jadi gak ada keuntungan, gak ada laba. Sebelumnya untung lah. Biasanya 3.800, 3.600.
Saat ini terpuruk dan mungkin dalam 1 atau seminggu lagi mungkin akan jauh lebih terpuruk. Jauh. Kenapa? Kami sudah tidak bisa lagi menjual dan pabrik tidak mau membeli. Perkaranya sekarang buah sawit hanya bisa dijual di pabrik sawit, tidak bisa di tempat lain. Nah, kalau pabrik sawit tidak bisa menerima buah sawit, maka menjadi kiamatlah bagi petani sawit secara menyeluruh.
Indonesia, the world's top palm oil exporter since April 28, has halted shipments of crude palm oil and some of its derivative products in a bid to control soaring prices of domestic cooking oil, rattling global vegetable oil markets. Chief Economics Minister Lanka has said the ban would stay in place until bulk cooking oil prices drop to 14,000 rupiah per liter across Indonesia. Trade Ministry data showed as of Friday, May 13, bulk cooking oil was priced on average at 17,300 rupiah per liter as of Friday.
Now, Sri Lanka needs $75 million in foreign exchange in the next few days to settle off essential imports. The newly appointed Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said in an address to the nation, noted that foreign allies have pledged their support in assisting the country during these trying times.
කෙසේ වුවත් ඉදිරි මාස කීපය ඔබට මට ජීවිතයේ දුෂ්කරම කාල පරිච්ඡේදය ගත කරන්නට සිදු වේවි. එයට අපි සියල්ලෝම කැපවීමෙන් මුහුණ දිය යුතුයි. මම ජනතාවට කරුණු සංගවා බොරු කීමට කිසිසේත් කැමති නැහැ. භයානක වුවත් අප්‍රසන්න වුවත් මේකයි ඇත්ත తත්වය. කෙටි කාලීනව අපි මුහුණ දෙන්න යන්නේ ගෙවි කාලයටත් වඩා දුෂ්කරම කාලයකට. මේ වෙලාවේ අපට තිබෙන්නේ දුක් කම්කටොළු විතරයි. ඒත් මේ తත්වය කෙටි කාලීනයි. ඉදිරි මාස කීපෙදී අපේ මිත්‍ර රටවල උපකාරය සහ සහයෝගය අපට ලැබේවි. ඔවුන් මේ වන විටත් අපට උදව් කරන්න පොරොන්දු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා ගතවන මාස කීපය අපට ඉවසීමෙන් දරා ගන්නට ඉන්නම වෙනවා. නමුත් අපිට මේකෙන් ගොඩ යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ සඳහා අපිට අලුත් මාර්ගයක යන්න වෙනවා.
The crisis sparked widespread protest against President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his family, culminating in his elder brother Mahinda Rajapaksa's resignation as Prime Minister last week after clashes between government supporters and demonstrators killed 9 people and injured 300 more. Hit hard by the pandemic, rising oil prices and populist tax cuts by the Rajapaksas, the strategic Indian Ocean island nation, where China and India are battling for influence, is in the midst of a crisis unparalleled since its independence in 1948. A chronic foreign exchange shortage has led to rampant inflation and shortages of medicine, fuel, and other essentials, bringing thousands out on the streets in protest. Wickremesinghe is yet to find a nominee for the crucial post of finance minister, who will negotiate with International Monetary Fund for badly needed financial help for the country. Former Finance Minister Ali Sabri had held preliminary talks with IMF, but he quit along with Mahinda Rajapaksa last week.
Wrapping up the Nightline, the first commercial flight for 6 years took off on Monday from Sana'a, Yemen's capital, under the control of the Houthi rebels, marking a positive step forward in the ongoing truce between the Yemeni warring sides.
Flight number IY648, carrying 151 passengers, departed from the Sana'a International Airport bound for Jordan's capital, Amman. The same Yemen Airways Airbus A320 had departed from Aden, Yemen's temporary capital, early on Monday morning and received a ceremonial water salute after landing in the Houthi-controlled Sana'a. Around half of the passengers on this flight were patients and family members heading abroad for medical treatment, with the welcome resumption of commercial flights helping to ease the urgent needs of these people.
والله انتظرنا من عندما قالوا في سفر وخلفوا ورجعوا انتظرنا ورجعوا خلفوا والله الحمد لله.
Affected by the conflict in Yemen, all commercial flights from the Sana'a International Airport had been suspended since August 2016, with only aircraft belonging to the United Nations and international organizations, as well as humanitarian planes, being allowed to fly in and out of Sana'a with the permission of the coalition. Only 2 other cities in Yemen have been operating international commercial flights, the government-controlled Aden and the southeastern city of Sewon.
استقبال الرحلة أو الطائرة وفق معايير السلامة الدولية ومطار صنعاء جاهز لاستقبال أي رحلة.
The airport's reopening for commercial flights comes in the middle of a 2-month humanitarian ceasefire that began on April 2nd with the help of the international community. But the resumption of flights had been delayed several times due to remaining differences between the conflicting parties. The special envoy of the UN Secretary-General for Yemen on Monday welcomed the flight resumption and affirmed all parties' adherence to the humanitarian ceasefire. The envoy said that the 2 sides are starting to rebuild trust through the humanitarian ceasefire and moving towards restarting the political process to end the conflict in a sustainable way.
How does debate improve one's communication skills and benefit one's career? Tune in to Sejahtera Asia at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow, where they will be speaking with guest Adi Shabrani, a debater and wildlife atlas manager at WWF Malaysia, only on TVS Astro Channel 122 and My Freeview. And that's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. For more headlines, head to our website at www.tvstv.my or follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm Muhammad Yusuf. Thank you for watching.